All right, today we're going to talk about reverse psychology and how it works to get your ex back. So let's first start talking about how I define reverse psychology, because the way I define reverse psychology might differ a little bit from the official definition. So reverse psychology in this instance is making another person do something that you want them to do by telling them essentially not to do it. The theory is that if you tell someone not to do something, it may make them want to do it more. Now, over the years on my websites, Ex-Girlfriend Recovery and Ex-Boyfriend Recovery, we have been blessed with thousands of success stories. People who have gone through a program and used it to successfully win their exes back. And through studying these success stories, we've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work to get exes back. That's why oftentimes you'll come to our websites and feel like, wow, the advice he's giving now is different than the advice he gave 5 years ago. That's because we view getting an ex back as a living and breathing thing. Every time we get new information, we have to re-look at the way we're advising people to get their exes back and shift our mindset so that they can be more successful and our advice can be better. Now, one thing that has remained unchanged throughout the years that we've been doing this is reverse psychology, specifically how it works to get an ex back. So what I'd like to do today is talk to you specifically about the strategies that use reverse psychology that still remain effective. In all, there are 4 strategies that we still advise today that rely heavily upon reverse psychology to succeed in getting your ex back. And those 4 strategies are the no contact rule, the Zeigarnik Effect, avoidant attachment insights, and also a paradigm shift. Now, what I'd like to do is just go through each one of these strategies to explain how they work and where their reverse psychology comes into play. Strategy number 1, the no contact rule. So the no contact rule is without a doubt probably the most famous reverse psychology strategy out there that most experts are advising. Now, our relationship with the no contact rule has changed many times over the years, but ultimately we've updated our definition for it 3 different times. Initially, it started out as this 30-day rule in which you ignore your ex to try to get them back by making them miss you. So ultimately, the reverse psychology comes in with the first definition where you're ignoring your ex to try to make them miss you. Yet, when we started studying more and more, we realized actually, people who are succeeding in getting their exes back aren't trying to make their exes miss them. So it's really all about the intent you have when you come into the no contact rule. So the way we advise people to use the no contact rule now is you're using the no contact rule as a period of time where you're outgrowing your ex. And by simply outgrowing your ex in that period of time, it has the added benefit of making an ex miss you. So where does the reverse psychology come into play here? Ultimately, by ignoring your ex, you're tapping into something called reactance. Now, reactance has to do with behavioral freedoms. So you and I are born with certain inherent behavioral freedoms. Yet when one of those behavioral freedoms gets threatened or you take it away, you're a lot more likely to react or feel this really ugly feeling in your stomach about the fact that it did get taken away. So you're going to react in a way to try to get it back. So when you're using the no contact rule, if you're using it just in and of itself, you're ignoring your ex. You're not talking to them. They reach out to you, you ignore them. They send you a letter, you ignore them. They try to show up at your house. Hopefully you're not answering, you're ignoring them. By doing that, you're taking your ex's behavioral freedom of talking to you off the table. They can no longer talk to you. And this elicits many different reactions. Some really negative, some really not so negative, where they're just simply ignoring you or doesn't seem like they care at all, but ultimately the average person does not like being ignored. So they're a lot more likely to reach out to you to try to get this freedom back. Hence, reverse psychology. Now, I don't want you to think that just by ignoring your ex, all of a sudden your ex is going to miss you. What we're finding is it's more about what you're doing during the no contact rule that matters. Sure, there's a reverse psychology element in play, but ultimately what matters more is you outgrow your ex during that no contact period, because that has the added benefit of making them miss you. Remember, the reverse psychology is only about them trying to get their freedom of talking to you back. Once they do get it back, they get kind of bored and go away. What you're looking for is for them to miss you, and that only happens with the correct intent during the no contact. The Zeigarnik Effect is probably one of my favorite strategies that I've ever talked about, and it still holds true today. It still really works, but I cannot claim credit for it. A Russian psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik is the one who came up with it when she learned that people remember interrupted or incomplete tasks better than completed ones. So how does this work? Well, imagine for a moment that you are at your house and there's a baby crying at your house. At the same time, there's someone knocking on your door trying to get in and calling you. Then the phone rings and then you notice, oh my goodness, I left the tap water on and it's flooding the kitchen. Each one of these gives you kind of a grating, annoyed feeling, especially that tap on in the kitchen that's flooding your house. So what's the first thing you're doing? Well, you're thinking of ways that you can close off these open loops. You're thinking of a way to soothe the child that's crying. You're thinking of a way to turn the tap off so that your house doesn't flood. You're thinking of a way to handle the person at the door and also to pick up the phone. This is all examples of the Zeigarnik Effect, basically creating open loops, interrupted tasks, incomplete questions. You're much more likely to make your ex think about you. Now, how does this play into reverse psychology? Well, one of the things that we have been advising our clients to do is ending conversations at the high point. So you're having this really great conversation with your ex, things seem to be going extremely well, and then all of a sudden something happens and you need to leave. The conversation is interrupted. Now, it seems kind of odd, but in and of itself, ending a conversation at the high point is you suddenly stop talking to your ex. This inherently makes them want to talk to you more and more. So ultimately, we use the Zeigarnik Effect for two reasons. The first one is it's a great way to get your ex to start initiating contact with you. And also the second one is it's a great way not to overstay your welcome in conversations. Strategy number 3, avoidant attachment insights. So this one is me kind of finding a loophole in the reverse psychology sort of ideals. This isn't technically a strategy that you're going to implement on your ex. Rather, it's an understanding that you need to have. Most of our clients have exes that have avoidant attachment styles. This means their ex craves intimacy, but when intimacy becomes close, they kind of flee because they're afraid of it. They're afraid of it encroaching on their own independence, which they value extremely highly. Now, what's interesting is a lot of people don't know this, but when an ex is in this fleeing state, clients are often coming to me asking, how can I make this avoidant ex miss me? I did actually a really great video on this a couple of months ago. It's one of my favorite videos that I've ever done. And in it, I talk about this concept of exes who are avoidant will not miss you or will not have nostalgia until they feel that you have moved on. So the reverse psychology comes into play here where it seems like what you should do if someone is an avoidant is give them a little space and then chase them, right? Most people don't even give them space. They just simply chase them trying to fix the problem. But what actually works on avoidance is giving them enough time to move on and you trying to move on yourself. That in and of itself makes them feel more at home so that they actually begin to miss you. They begin to have nostalgic feelings for you. Now, we've tried to embed this idea into our strategies for years. So ultimately, we're telling people, hey, don't be afraid to go on dates with other people. Hey, don't be afraid to give your ex extra time so that they have sort of this feeling that you are moving on, that you're not a threat to come back to them. Because as weird as it sounds, the reverse psychology really happens a lot here. Strategy number 4, the paradigm shift. Okay, so paradigm shift. This one is actually really fun because ultimately, when I'm talking about paradigm shift, I'm talking about taking a situation where you look at it in a completely different manner. You're shifting the paradigm, so to speak. So oftentimes, the easiest way I can probably get this through in this specific example is your behavior after a breakup. Now, we know from studying that most of our clients have anxious attachment styles. Someone with an anxious attachment style is obsessed with fixing the relationship that they lost. Oftentimes, this comes in very needy seeming behaviors. This comes in behaviors like begging, pleading. Oftentimes, these are the situations or these are the people who get blocked after they've overstepped their welcome with their avoidant ex. What these people need to do is shift their paradigm. Realize that because they've established this pattern of neediness, probably even throughout the relationship, the worst thing that they can do is continue doing the same thing over and over and over again. Albert Einstein once said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So what makes you think you would be any different by continuing to do the same thing to try to get your ex back, by begging, pleading, things like that? If you shift your paradigm, it's all about thinking or predicting what your ex thinks you're going to do and doing the exact opposite thing. This is oftentimes why the no contact rule is so effective. The last thing your ex thinks you're going to do is cut them out of their lives and ignore them completely. Hence, the paradigm shift has occurred. Now, I want you to have a little fun with this and think of all the clever ways in the comments below that you can shift your paradigm, that you can predict what your ex is thinking about you, and that you can do the exact opposite thing. Hey there, thanks so much for getting to the end of this video. If you haven't already, make sure you take our Ex Recovery Chances quiz at Ex-Girlfriend Recovery. It's a simple quiz designed to tell you what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back. Now, all you have to do if you want to take this quiz is simply look in the description link below this YouTube video, click the link you see there. We'll take care of you. Also, if you haven't liked, commented, and subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. It really does make a difference. See you next time.